morning, everyone, and welcome to the PivotBoss pre-market video for Tuesday, August 26th, 2025. I am Frank Ochoa, aka PivotBoss. Happy Tuesday, everyone. Here's a look at the ES in the daily time frame. Previous session, a little bit of a fade after trend day back into the previous range. Late day weakness played out right there, and you're really keeping prices inside that larger range that has developed here over the last few weeks. Obviously, impulse move down the day after Fed Day. 2-day sell-off, bounce back, that gave us a new key range here, and we've pretty much stayed mostly within the boundaries of that key range. We did come up here and form a little small range and drop. Friday we closed above there and pulled back, and we're still ascending here and building more energy. Again, we could have more volatility toward the tail end of the week. We have NVDA earnings after the bell on Wednesday, and then we have GDP and core PCE price index Thursday and Friday. That could be a rather volatile finish to the week, but incorporating some low volatility trading as well, as we are going into a holiday extended weekend here in the States. So again, overall this market remains range bound with an upward bias. There hasn't really been any strong signs of rejection just yet or failure, and every pullback continues to be a buying opportunity until proven otherwise. The early thought heading into the week was if we got a little bit of a pullback Monday and maybe into Tuesday, that could provide the early pullback to buy the dip ahead of a late week melt up phase. So keep an eye on the previous session's low. If we start to rally back through that low, we may see a return back to the previous session's midpoint and maybe even to the previous session's high as we stay in a kind of 2-day range with kind of a sideways to up bias. If we look at the NQ, similar price action out of the NQ here. Previous session, bit of a pullback today. Watch the previous session's low. Already prices below that level have been defended. We're seeing prices sit just above it at the moment. And overall, if bulls can keep that area bid, we may have a push back to the previous session's mid and the previous session's high. But keeping it within a 2-day range and a general upward bias, especially after Friday's range. Nice outside day Friday, hold day here. If we can get that defense of the previous session's low, we have a shot to get higher and perhaps melt up into the end of the week. So again, this one also building energy. Every pullback continues to be a buying opportunity within this big time uptrending market, building significant energy at the highs here. This Q3 range, very, very modest, especially compared to the Q1 and Q2 ranges. That's to be expected. And we could be looking at a big finish to the year out of this narrow Q3 range. So again, this compression could breed big time movement and volatility heading into Q4. All right, looking at crude oil. All right, here's a look at crude. What you'll notice here is the previous session finally got through the 64s and started to show a little bit of juice to the upside, finished well beyond 64s, and this morning a big time rotation right back down, especially right at the reopen of after hours trading. Harsh pullback back below 64, but we're still in this up move right now. We're holding right here at the 8-period average, which after it was taken bid here has held a support here, and is currently there now. Can we find a way for bulls to defend this pullback here in crude oil? Can this one close back above the day's midpoint? Maybe even close a bit higher here with a tail event. That could go a long way to overcoming the upside here, getting through 65s and opening up that 67.50 and 70.50 up ahead. That could be the upside targets if we can continue to overtake that 64. So again, can this market find a reaction at the previous session's low? If not, this could be a huge trap in reverse here where 58 could still be in store. All right, looking at gold futures, this one's up about 1/4%. Bit of a failed low developing outside day. This one back through the 3,400 and holding it on a retest right now. Are we headed a bit higher? Again, we don't really find a whole lot of acceptance above 34.50 lately, but we can get well through that level. Here's 34.50 right there. We can get through it. We've seen it get way up here into 3,500, but then we've seen a ton of rotations right back into the range. So if we start to push through 34.50, it could be a limited time here where we're spending above 34.50 before a rotation back down occurs. At some point, expecting expansion from this range, but until then, a lot more back and forth could happen. All right, looking at the YM. YM is modestly down at the moment. Now this one has shown overall strength here over the last week of trading, or at least a strong finish to the week last week. It basically pulled back least of any of the bunch here and developed a very narrow range. That breakout through the highs here, can this thing trigger more upside up ahead? Keeping it on the previous session's low. Any recovery of that low could open up some short-term strength here today, but even then this could be a holding pattern ahead of earnings later on Wednesday and into the latter part of the week. But right now, 45K, big time key level, trying to stay above that zone. Holding above 45K opens up 47K up above. Failure to hold 45K, and we could rotate back into 43. So right now, those are the key levels to watch. Still trending up overall, but is this going to turn into some type of blow off top, or are we still seeking higher? Keep an eye on the previous session's low. Bitcoin, ETH both fell hard at the end of the session yesterday. Both of these markets, Bitcoin and ETH, had nice reversals off the lows. Now this reversal off yesterday's low was pretty solid. It had rallied to back toward not quite the highs of the overnight trade, but way up there. It was a nice little wick reversal developing, and in the final hour of the day, a big time drop and really gave it up. Now that's a harsh gap. Like we mentioned yesterday morning, this is a big gap down against the previous mid, especially on strength. Massive MGR gap in the opposite direction. That's highly bearish. But we're now in that zone that we talked about before, 110. 110 to 112, especially the 110 level. Is this the area where it can hold and double back to the recent highs? That'll give us a continued developing, expanding range here. Or do we fail at 110 and open up a return to 100K, the next area of support? Or even a bit lower, 95K. I've mentioned before, if we get into 95K, that could be a long-term buying opportunity here for this market back to recent highs and even through those highs. So we'll see how deep we go. But again, 110, big time area of support right here. Big pivot in the charts. Can it hold that area and bounce for an expanding range? Or do we start to give it back here into value below? Keep an eye on that zone. Now watching ETH here, this one modestly down right now ahead of the RTH Open. Big time pullback, especially in the final hour of the day yesterday. This thing was sitting right about 4,600 yesterday, and in the final hour dropped below 4,400. So half the day's range came in the final hour of the day, and we're now back into this range here. This one's still trending up in a big way. Keep an eye on the previous session's low right now to defend that low. Would suggest a little bit more of a bounce here, but this could be a back and forth day here as this market continues to work toward the holiday weekend here. But uptrending moves overall. We could continue to see back and forth price action here. 4,000 a key level here in terms of support, and any break of that level opens up 3,400 down below. So those are the key levels to continue to watch. All right, that is it for now. We'll see how this plays out here heading into the rest of the session. Good luck, trade well, and I'll see you in the trading room. Take care.